Um, I'm going to talk about the appearance of the Antichrist. Um, you'll understand here in a minute. I think one of the things about the Antichrist that will be so, baffling and intriguing and stuff about this guy to the world is his appearance. Um, I think that, you know, first of all, Nimrod in the Bible, legend has it that he was known for being like somebody that was a great hunter. Even the Bible says he was a mighty hunter. Um, the reason why he was a mighty hunter is because of what he hunted. And legend has it that he hunted like cryptids, like hybrids. He was a hybrid hunter. He would hunt like chimeras, your centaurs and minotaurs and your, stuff like that. Um, Animals that were spliced, not necessarily like human animal hybrids, because I think Nimrod was possibly a human animal hybrid himself. A lot of people say he was a giant because of the term in the Hebrew Ha Gibborim, which means the mighty ones. The giants were called Gibborim often, but Gibborim can also be used for regular men. Nimrod, there's no evidence suggesting that Nimrod was a Nephilim or a fallen angelic descendancy when he was born. However, the language kind of implies that he became um, some sort of like DNA manipulation. Um, we know, like through occultic rituals, people can change their DNA. I think that might have happened with Cain. I don't have a whole lot of evidence for that yet, so I'm still working on that. But Nephilim, I think, Nimrod, I think that was absolutely the case. And I think, we see like Gilgamesh, a lot of people think was, Nimrod also. There's actually really good, like reasons behind Gilgamesh being Nimrod. But there's a famous like carving or sculpture, or maybe it's a stele, but it's got Gilgamesh holding a lion, and it kind of looks like he's holding a little kitty cat, but that's like, showing how big he was. Um, you know, Maybe he was just a giant. I don't know, but I think you know we have. Oh, this is something that I have really noticed a lot, especially like now that I've been really looking for it. There's a lot of accounts in the Bible for just anamorphic like chimera type beings. Um, the translations over the years, like translating it to English, we have really lost like like a lot of times real specific details that they're not going to change so much of the meaning of the story, but like we will lose like certain details that like will provide a better context for why things are happening, or you know why people are looked at the way they are, or things of that nature. You know there is a guy named Benaiah in the Bible, David and his mighty men. That term mighty men is Hagibbarim. But David, I think, actually had a guy that had, some giant DNA, on his squad. I mean, he had to train literally giant killers. He was a giant killer. And for this reason is actually why God did not allow David to build the temple. He gave him the blueprints for it and what he wanted it to look like, but he wouldn't let David build it because David was a man of war. And, he'd shed a lot of blood, which is okay. But, not all, but and it wasn't always okay. Like he did mess up. He killed his buddy for his buddy's wife, which what I mean, that was a big deal. It's interesting too to note that of all the hundreds of wives and concubines that David and Solomon had, that was his son Solomon. Um, which I'm not saying God was just okay with it, but God, you don't never see God like punishing either one of them for having those wives. The only time David got punished anyway was when he, took his buddy's wife. That was being, you know, that was being a bad friend, an adulterer, and ended up being a murderer, basically. I mean, he had him killed. I can't remember if it was by his own men or if he might have put him up front in the battle line so he would, be likely killed. But I mean, whatever the intentions were of David was, underhanded and sneaky, and he did pay dearly. He had kids that resulted from that union, I think, or one kid. I think they ended up like coming after him to kill him. His own son became his enemy and wanted him dead. And this is after he had to deal with Saul for his whole young life of trying. This guy that he absolutely like helped Saul and did nothing but bless Saul and was a blessing in Saul's life. But Saul just was so jealous of this kid, and he just came along and stole Saul's shine, and he stole the show. He killed Goliath. People just loved David, and David he was just, he was a chosen one, and he knew it. He knew it. Once he killed that giant, it was game on. He knew what the deal was. Couldn't nobody tell David nothing, and there's some confusion about, Goliath. There were two Goliaths in the Bible. There's Goliath of Gath, and there's Goliath the Gittite, both giants. And they were of the descendant of the Anakim. Anakim was another tribe of giants. There were many tribes and clans of giants. All of them had different names meaning different things. A lot of times having to do with their physical appearance, the way they lived, their culture, where they lived, how they, just a lot like, for example, the Rephaim, I believe, were known for having serpentine-like features. The let's see here, Zamzuman, the Zamzuman, I think, they were known for how they spoke. They stuttered and stammered a lot. They had a very strange language. There was another tribe, it eludes me who, but they had very long necks. Just their neck was like long, and that's interesting to me because I know in Africa there's tribes where they literally put rings around their necks and they'll keep adding one after so long. They stretch their neck out and it looks very painful and uncomfortable. But I mean, they've been doing it since ancient times, and that might be, the inspiration behind it was these, because the giant clans, they were they ruled the day. If they weren't ruling the land, they were protecting the rulers of the land. They were paid protection, and the Amorites were known for that. They were hated. They were absolutely hated. People hated the giants. They were barbarian and unsophisticated and nasty and cannibals, and they were just, everything about them was just like uncouth. They were, they belonged out in the fields and the barns and the woods, but oh well. Anyway, a lot of the tribes were like that, but at the same time, they were very, very hard to defeat because they had supernatural abilities and strength. So anyway, back to the point at hand. Benaiah was David's right-hand man, who he killed the lion-like men of Moab. Now, a lot of people will say these two guys, the lion-like men of Moab, they had lion-like looks, or like they were fierce like a lion. They had the attitude of a lion. No, that's not what it's saying. It's saying they were like lions because they had lion DNA. they were probably some type of super soldiers, and that's why Benaiah was mentioned. Think about having your name written in the Bible, like for all generations to read. Like there are names in the Bible that like you some people that are so insignificant you would think that they might only be mentioned once or whatever, but like just having your name in the Bible, like that would be badass. And Benaiah is one of these guys that like he deserves his spot. I think these two lion like men, I think the reason it's recorded and that he killed them is like they were a big deal. They might have been worshipped as gods. They were chimeras. They were human animal hybrids, and it says he killed them, and that's it. It doesn't give any details. I bet that'd be a cool movie in itself. But the very next verse, it records he also killed a lion in a pit on a snowy day. I can't imagine how hard it would be to kill a lion, and not he didn't have a gun. It would be hard to kill a lion with a gun. I just watched a video a while ago where a lion came charging at two guys with guns, and I mean, they scared it off, but they still weren't able to kill it. And it was able to get to one and knock him over, but the gun scared the lion away, and it was a big male. And I mean, this lion still got away alive. So don't think that just because you got a gun, you're able to just take something down that's like stronger, more fierce than you. No, yeah, Benaiah was definitely, I mean, I can only imagine like how badass these dudes had to be and like how much like David had to train like how to fight. And like I have a feeling like the Mossad of Israel, like they probably traced their like a lot of their like you know history and training and stuff back to King David and his mighty men. I'm guessing, I don't know that for sure, but I bet there's some linkage there. And I think it's really cool because as men, we do have like the ability and potential to become great, even physically. Supernatural beings, are not always something you want to, have to stand up against. But however, we have a supernatural God that can grant us supernatural abilities as well. But just our faith is enough a lot of times, and that's David didn't get any supernatural abilities. He was just a badass with a sling. He was willing and ready to fight whenever it was time, and he wasn't afraid. And I think that's the biggest part of it. It's not the size of the dog in the fight; it's the size of the fight in the dog. Is that the same? So that is very relevant to the David and Goliath story. But I think back to the point here is there is a really cool story in the Bible about there's one of the tribes of Israel is called the tribe of Gad, Gad. A lot of people think that the descendants of the tribe of Gad today are like Native American. They ended up being Native Americans. I don't know how people come to that conclusion, but there may be some good evidence. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. However, what I know about the tribe of Gad is not much, but I do know that like the father of like the 12 sons, that would be in Abraham, Isaac. So when Isaac blessed his sons, that these are all the heads of the 12 tribes of Israel. Gad is one of the sons, and Gad, his blessing that he got from Isaac, his dad, had to do, I can't remember word for word, but it had to do with he will be an excellent raider. Gad was a warrior tribe. They were, just known for being fighters and badasses. Now, there was a time when David and his men were fighting the Philistines. They always were. They were like nemesis. Israel and the Philistines fought for centuries. And, there was a story in the Bible. I'm not going to remember all the details, but it's a pretty cool story. And it just goes on to say that there was a group of Gadites, the tribe of Gad, and that there were only 30 of these. There's way more in the tribe, but just these particular 30 men were they were just known for being like the baddest group of fighters around. And they had the faces of lions. They were fast as gazelles on the mountains. I don't think this is speaking figuratively. I think they were literally like this. And like they were able to use a sling with both hands, so they were ambidextrous. They looked like lions, and they were fast as gazelles. I don't know if you know what a gazelle is, but it's basically a super fast deer that, it's like in Africa, and they got to get away from lions. So I think what we have here are super soldiers. I think there's a lot of places in the Bible where God is mad at Israel because of their abominations they commit, like the pagans around them and the Canaanites, which are your, giant descendants and your giant clans, descendants of fallen angels who are occultic and pagan. They started the occult. That's where it all comes from. And, I think these guys ended up, for however, whatever it doesn't say, but they ended up doing some DNA splicing and mixing, and they, ended up having this group of like super soldiers ended up being just for that reason. And I don't think God agreed with it or was okay with it, but what's done is done. And they ended up going and helping David, and because of the respect they had for David, um, I think they might have even been kind of outcast because of their appearance. The way it talks, they weren't just like a part of the tribe with everybody. They were kind of their own deal. And it said that the least of